Good evening, everyone. Awesome. All right, now I'm not going to use this anymore. Didn't feel like shouting. Can everybody hear me all right? No? Seriously? All right, I'll use this. How about now?
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Well, everybody, thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it. The goal here tonight is to basically provide everybody in the community the feedback that we receive from the community and others in regards to the two potential BLA or annexation, whatever you want to call them, concepts from two adjacent landowners to town. And so we're going to first walk through the process that we use to try to gain and gather feedback, a reminder of what the two concepts on the table are, the results of the feedback, and then what the next steps are. So we're just going to basically cover that. And at the end, if there's questions on any of that information, by all means, please ask a question on what we've gone over. So we'll get started here. Unfortunately, the projector isn't the best, so some of you in the back might not be able to see the smaller detail when the graphs and charts come up. So I will just walk through the numbers and walk through the specific detail. Yeah. Yeah, and there's a copy here if somebody wants it. After this is over, Rhonda's got a big stack with her. So basically, here's the outline, the public information we received, both through the survey and the collection methods that we use, a top-level analysis of that information, review the concepts, the Windy Hill analysis, the Homewood Farm analysis. As folks remember, we were asked the town went out and got 2 consultant studies. There was a question on what would be the fiscal impact of the town on these proposals. So we did get a fiscal impact analysis. And then there was a lot of questions around what was the difference between by right development in the county versus something in the town on the Homewood Farm concepts. So we had an engineering firm take a look at that. And then again, the last piece here is next steps. Okay, so, and I'm not going to go through all of this, you guys can read it, but basically we had the public presentation in mid-April. At that point, the town committed to a 3-month process whereby we would be open for any form of comment that people wanted to provide to us. We used an online form, which a lot of people used, basically asking for your input feedback, whether you supported, opposed, weren't sure, or yes with changes or something like that. And also there was a general comments section. The town clerk, who is here with us tonight, Rhonda North, she collected all the data that as it came in. We had lots of folks just call in and give it verbally, and we had lots of folks actually email it. Some folks sent us a letter in the mail, so all good there. A lot of folks did just directly use the town website, which was great. So, and the one thing I want to say real quickly before we go on is the overwhelming vast majority of the feedback and input from the community, regardless of what the feedback or input was thoughtful, considerate, well-meaning, well-intentioned, respectful, and we really, really appreciate that. It makes all the difference in the world to get both positive and opposing feedback to make sure that we can give the landowners the information they need to make the best decision for them to go forward. But all those who engage with the town in that way, we really, really do appreciate it. Okay. One thing we also wanted to show was what we did, how we did it, and then the feedback and the way in which it was received. So, and I love data and I love charts, so unfortunately you're going to see a lot of pie graphs and bar charts and all that kind of stuff tonight. We had the meeting over here in April, at which point the website went live and we told folks they could provide us their feedback any way they wanted. We also committed to having specific sections of every single town council meeting reserved for public comment on the BLA Concepts only from April till the end of July. And so you see those meetings here. That didn't mean that someone couldn't come to a meeting after that and provide comment. We just had a specific section of the council meeting reserved for input and feedback. At this meeting right here, and I will give Joan Bill a credit for the idea. She said, you know, I don't like doing the computer. Why don't you have a mailer or something? We thought, you know what, that's a really good idea. So right here around June, mid-June, we sent out a mailer to every citizen home in town and said, look, you may not have seen the website. Here's a one-pager on the concepts. If you want to fill this out in paper, by all means do so and send it back to us. And when we did that, you can see now the level of responses that we started getting from the community. So this is all the feedback we got prior, which was just the online form, and this number right here is 10, and these are the weeks as they go along. Once we sent the mailer out, we really started to get a lot of feedback. So again, we really appreciate everybody doing that. It made a wonderful difference. Okay, so top level analysis of where did we get the feedback from? So in total, there was 192 responses. Again, phone, email, form online, somebody filled it out by hand and sent it in. But 21 of those were duplicates. And what I mean by duplicates is the same person came in and you know, there was one incident, or maybe two incidences of dead people providing input, but everything else, it was an individual came in and put in a comment, and then a week later put in another comment, then a month later said, oh, I have this idea too. So, you know, that person shouldn't be getting voting 3 times. We kept all the comments, kept all their input, but only counted their votes once. So there was about 21 of those. There was one individual who I think went in and 8 times put thoughts and ideas in over the 3 months. So the data you're going to see tonight is the 171 individual unique responses from the community. So 91 of those responses were from people who were town residents. 49 were responses from people who resided outside of town, and then 31 of them were responses from folks that didn't give their name or address, and we couldn't discern whether they were an in-town resident or an out-of-town resident. So that's about 18%. So there you see the breakup up top. This number right here, I'm having trouble seeing it. I think that says 53.2%. So about 53.2% of the respondents were from in the town. Okay, just a quick review. This is actually the slide from April where we showed the overall, you know, concepts here. With Windy Hill, it's 33 acres in total. 10 approximately would be developed. The remaining 23, the idea is conservation easement, and their concept called for 60 units. Homewood Farms is here, 212 acres in total, approximately 22 would be annexed into town, the remaining would be in conservation easement, and the concept called for 66 total units. So, and I just want to make sure this is reiterated for everybody. Nothing has been submitted to the town officially. These are their concepts and ideas, and you know, the town has no actual action in front of it at this moment. And again, this is their concept. This is their starting point. It does not mean that when they come to the town, if they choose to come to the town, that they may or may not choose to change it, alter it, modify it, or whatever, based on feedback, based on community input. Okay. Here is the top-level analysis from the community. Now, I recognized this just earlier, about an hour ago. You see 3 pie charts and then 1 bar chart. Take the bar chart, just don't look at that one yet. We should have used different colors because it's not the same legend. In the pie charts, the top pie chart here is the overall responses from everybody. The bottom one is the responses from folks that are out of town. And then the one up here at the top right is the responses from folks that were in town. Okay, so overall, for the out of town and in town, you had 34% who were opposed. You had 38 who were in favor of it. It's about 2 to 3% were in favor with changes. There was 15% who didn't choose one way or the other. And then you had, is that 9.4? Yeah, 9.4% who were just undecided. And that is the overall result from both groups. For Windy Hill. Out of town, it was 38.7. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. What is it?
36.
Sorry, 36.7. Favoring it was 34.7. Favor with changes is 2%. No answer was about 10. And then undecided was about 8. And then lastly is the responses from folks that were in town. And again, this is where over half of the feedback came from. You had, let me do this. Thank you. I'm still happy. No, I don't need glasses. Yeah, there you go. All right, thank you. I'm not going to. Okay, so the favor up here is 40.7. The oppose is 28.6. No answer was about 15.4. Undecided was 11. And favor with changes is 4.4. So that is the result of the information in terms of favor or oppose, total, in town, and out of town. Okay, and then this bar chart here shows a breakdown of the four with changes, no answer, opposed, and undecided. So the in-town responses are here. So that's about 37, 36. The out of town was about 18, I would say, and the unknown is somebody voted, but they didn't give their name or address. They were a little over 10%, was the in favor of the Windy Hill concept. And then favor with changes is here. No answer, that's the breakout there. So again, we had a number of folks who didn't tell us whether they liked it or didn't like it either way, but they gave feedback and comments. And then here is the oppose, broken out by those three demographics, and then this was the undecided. So I think the overall takeaway is out of town was, if you look at favor and favor with changes, it's about half and half. In town, it was substantially higher in support of the concept. And then again, this is how they broke out on the bar chart. And again, oh, and by the way, all of this raw data is in a big spreadsheet. It's available to anybody if you want to look at it any time on your own, as well as all the comments, and as well as these graphics. Some of the themes that came out, I'd say the major themes that came out from people's feedback. In comments that were supporting Windy Hill, the reason that they were supporting it was lack of affordable housing is an issue. Windy Hill has a proven track record in Middleburg. Their support for the overall Windy Hill organization and their mission, and it helps many in our community that are in need. Those who were opposing, some of the reasons, the concerns that they raised as to why they were opposing it. Access off of Route 50 was a concern. They don't support development in Middleburg. The look of a cluster will have a negative impact on the views. Potential impact of noise, lights, what's the impact on town services, things of that nature. Residents won't work in town. And then the last one is, was there a burden, you know, their potential burden to taxpayers. And again, this is the opinion from the community. No, I've got it. As to why they felt there was concerns. Okay. Next one is the data results on the Homewood farms. Oh, thanks. I promise I don't need glasses. Yet. It's fine. Now you lost it. Okay, there. All right. Excuse me. Okay. Exact same layout as the one before. Top is overall responses. The bottom here is out of town, and then the other one up here is the in town, and then there's the bar chart here. So top right, overall it was 49% opposed, 21% in favor, and an additional 5.3% in favor with changes. And in the spreadsheet, people did say what their change was. Oh, if you could do this, I would support it, or something like that. 8.8% were undecided, and then again, there was a section of about 15% who did not provide a vote one way or the other. Out of town, it was. I got it. Out of town, it was 42.9% opposed, 24.5% in favor. In favor with changes was 6%. No answer was 18%, and then undecided was 8.2%. And then last was the in town. In town was, real quick here. Yeah, was 46.2% opposed, 19.8% in favor, 4.4% in favor with changes, 17.6% no answer, and then the 12% were undecided. And then lastly, down here at the bottom, again, is the bar chart that gives you the breakout of where the specific input came from, whether it was in town, out of town, or if we couldn't discern whether they were in town or out of town. Okay. And then here were some of the inputs. Large tract and conservation easement is positive for the town. Preferential to AR2 by right development that is in Loudoun County. Managed growth with town control is better than sprawl that we don't control. And protection of the water sources by putting new homes on town water and sewer instead of individual wells and septic systems. Which I think was a big concern people had when Banbury was going on. The next one here is comments from those who were not in favor of it. Concerned about the multi-story condo building. How do we, belief that can't really be made affordable or attainable. Too much population increase by a percentage. Negative impact on town utilities, services, parking, traffic. It's against the rural values of the community. Concern about the commercial, potential commercial aspects. Concerns about setting precedent for new annexation proposals. Safety on Foxcroft Road, and the creation of surface runoff. So that's impervious surfaces, right? Having too much impervious surface. So again, these are folks' opinions on if they were not in favor of it, why they had concerns. Okay, the next two items here are the consultant studies, and I think I'll be able to say this one. I didn't have a problem anyway, but so the first one here is the consultant impact study. So one of the questions that came from a lot of folks was, what is going to be the fiscal, town staffing, services impact to the town? How could the town accommodate that? Would it create a negative cash flow situation and things like that? So we had Chimera, which is a sort of an economic development study company. They did our economic impact analysis during COVID for us. They're very good. We had them review all the concepts as proposed, the potential number of people involved. They used some standard assumptions on housing unit prices and property values, and they created basically a per capita revenue model around utilities and services. So what that means really is, on a per person basis, so if the total here is 60 homes at, or 60 units at Windy Hill and 66 units at Homewood Farm, that would bring in X number of people, and X number of people need this types of services, right? They would use this much water, they would use this much sewer, you would need police staff, things like that. We did it on a per capita basis because if we did it on an overall analysis of how our water and sewer is used, I mean, Salamander's almost 40% of the water and sewer that we use. They're not one person, so we basically just took their usage and their dollars out of the calculation so we could get it on a per head, an apples to apples per head basis. And then we did the exact same thing for understanding the expenses around policing and utility support. The conclusion, you'll see the data here in a second, was considering everything all together, if the concepts were done in the town as brought forward right now, there is no negative fiscal impact to the town in terms of delivery and being able to maintain the services that those homes would need. And we'll show you the breakout. So on the top half of this is revenues that would be generated by the homes and the people living there. The bottom half is the estimate of the additional services that we would have to provide, and then what the net impact of that is. So on the Windy Hill side, the estimate is about $10,000 in real estate taxes per year, and then the water and sewer user fees, so everyone's got to pay their water bill, would be about $39,000. You notice real quickly there's a significant difference between Windy Hill and Homewood Farms in terms of the potential real estate taxes generated. The reason is because a lot of Windy Hill properties would likely be tax exempt. So, you know, just to show the diligence of Chimera, they took all those types of factors into consideration. So $10,000 would be the real estate taxes, about $40,000 for the water sewer user fees, with a total of about $49,000 in revenue that would be generated from the Windy Hill concept. Expenditures, we would absolutely need to have additional policing. And there would be, most folks probably don't realize this, but we hire a third-party company called IES as a managed service to manage the utility system for us. They do a great job. So there would be some increased activity from them. And then also put in this is additional money that we would apply every year into our CIP fund to make sure that we're building up that fund for long-term capital expenses that come from running your utility system. So the net impact of Windy Hill would be about $13,000 per year of additional cost to the town. And you know, the town's doing well now, and we've got a healthy surplus. So, you know, I don't think from a council's perspective that is, you know, something that would be of grave concern. Whereas if it was, you know, $250,000, that would be a grave concern. On the Homewood Farms, the taxes here, again, none of these would be tax exempt, so you'd be getting the full real estate tax on all the homes there. Water and sewer user fees, the total expense there. Sort of the same amount of additional services would be needed because the projects are about the same size in terms of water sewer administration and public safety. So that would actually come out to a net positive revenue for the town of about $14,000. So if the town moved to do both concepts as proposed, the net impact would be about $1,000. So now again, that is not saying that that's what's happening or what's being done or whatever. This is straightforward, just an analysis of the two concepts as they stand today. And those are the roll-ups right there to the right. Okay. Next, one of the great questions that came from a lot of folks, and when we met in April, and also subsequently right after that, was folks really wanted to understand on the Homewood Farms property what could be done there as a by right use in AR2 in Loudoun County. So we talked about it in April, sort of generally in terms of the uses that are permitted. So we went ahead and hired an engineering firm, a development engineering firm, to say what would be prototypical that would happen in Loudoun County with this type of a property under a by right use in the county. So they looked at the current zoning and determined, likely what would happen. These again are conceptual, right? This is their view of, this is the types of things they see in the rural area in Loudoun County. And at the end of the day, it is up to a property owner what they do and they don't want to do with their property, but this is just an analysis of what is allowable under county zoning. So they came up with two concepts. I think everybody is always very concerned about residential. So what would a potential fully residential development look like? And then, this is becoming more popular in the county, a mixture of rural, commercial, and residential. What could that look like by right from the county? And this is, again, the slide from April. These are all of the permitted uses in AR2 in Loudoun County. And I think what we heard from the community, the ones that were of most concern were sort of the ones that come up in red. Okay, so here's the first concept the first option that the engineering firm looked at. So in that yellow outline is the whole Homewood Farms property. They examined the topography, they examined where the best perk sites would be based on currently available hydrological and all that kind of stuff, and they basically said, you could do 14 homes by right, and in a rural economy lot. So it would, this sort of blows it up so you can see a little bit better. Again, this is a notional thought of what could be done from county zoning. So it's 14 lots, homes there. These are just sort of average home size footprints, but in the county you can really build a home as big as you want. So again, this is notional. Entrance here off of Foxcroft Road. One stretch of homes here, and then one stretch up along the hillside there. This area over here, they told us, was a floodplain, so really wouldn't be building much in there. The second one that they put together was if someone decided to do a mixed commercial, mixed residential development. Okay, so this is going to be a little complex for a second. What's that? Yeah, only a second. So in the county, if you're going to do a cluster development and or commercial rural uses, you can actually strike the balance between what you want to do between two sets of numbers. So this property, allowable by right, is 14 lots, probably best way to say it, and a rural economy lot. But they don't have to all be residential, they don't have to all be commercial. You can actually, within the two number sets, you can choose how many rural, agricultural, commercial lots you want to use versus how many residential lots you want to use. So as an example, you have to have a minimum of 5. Do I have that right, Will? Residential. Right. You have to have a minimum of 5 residential clustered lots. But what that means is, because you're permitted up to a total of 14, you could have 9 rural economy lots, which allow that list of 40 commercial uses. So it would be up to the owner to decide what they want to do and market conditions and all that kind of stuff. But this is just sort of an overall concept if they built some portion of the lots as residential, and then some, I think it's 3 rural economy lots. So it's very hard to see, what this looks like. So what we really did is just took and blew it up here. So this is the edge of town right here. This is Foxcroft Road. And again, I really want to be clear about this. This is not anything that anybody has said they want to do, care to do, or interested in doing at all. This is simply a hypothetical view of what could be done by any landowner now or in the future. So what they have here is, there's a rural economy processing facility up here. So, that could be a husbandry facility. It could be, wine manufacturing, things like that. There's a certain number of residential residential lots here. Over here, it's offices, a commercial restaurant. You could do an amphitheater for live music performances, things like that. You could put in, winery and grapes and all that kind of stuff. And so this is really showing, I believe it's 3 rural economy lots, or just two rural economy lots, and the rest in residential. And then with the AR2 in the county, look at each one of these almost as Lego pieces. You can sort of move them all over the property in which way and configuration you want to do. So that's the analysis we got from the planning engineer. So that's basically all the data and the information. Again, it's available on the town website for anybody who wants to see it. If you want the raw spreadsheet yourself to go do pivot tables and charts, we're more than happy to provide it. We have given all this information to the property owners and their representatives. At this point, from an information gathering perspective, we're not actively seeking any information or input from the community. That does not mean if you want to give us more information, by all means, please send it in. We will absolutely put it with everything else, and we will share it with the owners and the representatives. This exercise was to understand and to gather the public's feedback and thoughts on these concepts before any actual application process started, because we wanted to take the pulse of the community and provide it to the owners so that they could adjust their proposals or ideas or thoughts based on the community feedback. And that's why we had as lengthy of a process as we did. And I will say, I really do appreciate the owners, their representatives, for being as thoughtful and patient and allowing us to do this process. Property owners, we now provide this information to them, and it's for them to, come to the town and, provide a concept or file an application or bring in new ideas, whatever is on their agenda. We are going to provide you points of contact for the representatives, for the owners as well. That way, if you have a question directly for them, you can, submit it to them. It'll be Bob Dale for the Winnie Hill Foundation and John Lewis at Painter Lewis. Again, the last thing I'll say is we thank everybody for all your time. We thank you for your input. Really appreciate everybody coming and being as thoughtful and as helpful as they have. I know that no matter what happens, it will inform a much better process if one happens after this. And I know it's been educational for all of us on council, and really appreciate the community's time. And with that, if anybody's got questions about the public input, the fiscal analysis, or the by right development concepts, or anything else we've gone over, by all means, you can ask now. Mr. Donovan, you shot up first.
I'm aware, you made it very clear, that neither proposed project has submitted an application. So all of this is still highly theoretical. But what I'm continuously troubled indication that it would be anything but market rate housing. Now, if 48 of them are condos and 3-story buildings or something like that, that would mean that they're not going to be $3 million McMansions. But I don't think it's clear enough to the average person. I was just so surprised a couple of weeks ago when Bundles Murdoch wrote a letter, very good letter on balance, to the Middleburg eccentric. And who doesn't love Bundles? But she's probably friends with 2/3 of the people in the room and an alumna of the town council. But even she, as sophisticated as she is, was making references to one of the potential pluses of Homewood being affordable workforce housing when there is no such assurance given on which to judge whether one likes or dislikes the project.
So, I'll turn that into a question. So in the conversations with the owners and the representatives, that issue, okay, sorry.
I'm Eric Prince. I am the homeowner, the landowner. I've owned that property for 22 years. We are committed to doing something with the property. We're committed to leaving it long-term to our kids. So we're not developing it, selling it off, or running away. We plan to be Middleburg residents, and we care about the view shed for decades and decades to come because we plan to leave it to our kids and grandkids and beyond. We're not looking to put a whole bunch of McMansions there, because remember, it's going to be our view as well, in our view shed. But we are committed to doing something with the property. And whether it is, and if we get completely shut off by the town, we're still going to do something with the property. And we have a wide range of options, and that can be everything from agriculture. We used to run 160 cows. I'm open to running pigs or chickens. But we're going to do something with the property. And we care about the view just as much as you do, or more, because we're surrounded by it. And but we're not looking to put McMansions on. It would be a lot of condos, some townhouses, and I think about 8 or 10 single-family houses is all we're planning. What we're considering.
Good. Thank you. So, Mr. Donovan, I think the idea here was, well, I appreciate the owner stepping forward. I think the idea here is, I think they call it affordable by design, which is driven by the size, right? I think that's the idea, but again, this all will come forward in an actual application or proposal to the town council, and we're very mindful that that is a goal that we want to achieve in our comprehensive plan, and so that would be something we would need and want to see. So, you don't know until you actually have it in your hand, and then you've got something to work with. I know it's not a perfect answer, but your goal or your comment about our goal is to strike a balance to find attainable housing for teachers and workforce and stuff like that. That is absolutely a major goal of the council. So that is the lens that we look through. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. So first of all, to me, price is driven by location and desirability. I'm just going to put that out there. It's not square footage. When you talk about the fiscal analysis, I didn't see anything about an analysis on services. And I know when they did the talk before that they talked about you're only using 40% of capacity of water and stuff like that. And with Salamander, both of these proposals would put 160 houses back on. I own the farm right next to Windy Hill, and this year my well that does my 12-horse barn and all my irrigation went out because the town started using the well. And when I tried to address it with the town, I was ignored and told, hey, not our problem. So I've already experienced, and I'm digging a new well. Luckily, a piece of my property is in Buck here, and I can rock on. But by that happening to me, and with the 66 houses going close, I keep hearing the water is going to be fine, and I don't understand that. And my second question is, I'm used to when people do impact analysis, it's usually the person doing the submission takes on
Sure, so I will answer the question about water real quickly, although, I mean, we'd really like to keep on this, but, so the town, we currently use, Danny, what percentage of our water and sewer capacity do we use? Is it 40%?
So, yeah, water is 30 to 40% perhaps, and sewer is 50%, give or take.
Okay. So the water that we produce in the town, we're only using 30% of it. In the sewer capacity, we're only using 50% of it. So town right now has 420 plus or minus homes and salamander. So even if everything got built as the concept show, we would still not reach near the limit of the capacity of what we have in terms of water and sewer in the town. The second part of the question was, how much did we spend? About $20,000 on the total studies. The reason we wanted to do that was because we wanted it to be independent. I'm on the county land ordinance committee as well, and usually when the applicant provides a report, it says exactly what they want it to say. So we wanted it to be fully independent and not tied to one side or the other. So, any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to ask a question that has nothing to do with those things, but because Mr. Prince is here, one of my big concerns is dumping Homewood development onto Foxcroft. And I would like to ask that other progressives be considered to get into town so that all those 66 homes, 120 potential cars aren't popping on the Foxcroft.
Sure. I mean, great feedback. Yeah, Joanne, I don't think you're the only person who brought that concern up, so it's certainly in the data sheets that we've given to the property owners.
Okay.
But yes, having alternate entrances other than Foxcroft absolutely was raised.
Okay. Thank you.
Patty?
Hey, Bridge, I wondered if you'd ask Jamura to come up here. Thanks for letting us know you people into a pig farm or a chicken farm. The Virginia Right to Farm Act doesn't protect agricultural activities like that up against existing residential development that already exists. But, Bridge, would you ask your consultant to please do an option 3, which is AR2 zoning in Loudoun County is only going to exist for a short time. No application has been filed. I wonder if Jamura would be kind enough to do a schematic or hypothetical as an option 3 under the new AR South zoning. All of AR2, which surrounds Middleburg, will now become AR South, and many of the commercial type agricultural uses that you show on your chart in red, such as wineries, rural corporate retreats, restaurant and country inns, are going away. They're disappearing as permitted uses, and they will now be regulated by Loudoun County. And I believe the residential development options will also change under AR South. So I believe we're missing a very valuable component of information, and that is option 3 under potential AR South rezoning that is imminent.
Sure.
Thanks.
It's a great question. So I'm actually, as I said, I'm on the zoning ordinance committee for the county. I helped provide input to the AR South zoning district. I can tell you right now with absolute certainty, the residential cluster development option is not going away, nor is the density bonus you get in AR2 South, or excuse me, in AR South. You still get, it is still 1 home per 40 acres if you do not cluster, and it is still 1 home per 15 acres if you do cluster. So those numbers are not changing. That is what's before the County Planning Commission today, and will go to the board probably at the beginning of the year. You are right in the sense that some of these, and again, I'm on the committee that helped review this, some of these are changing, but they are actually expanding because the view now is about intensity of use and flexibility in rural economy uses. So it is not actually becoming more restrictive, it is becoming less restrictive. And I will be happy to send you the draft if you'd like to read it. Any other questions?
I just, on the site plan you showed with the 14 houses being built, show the houses being 14-acre lots, it shows 3-acre lots.
Yeah, I mean, that's the maximum amount, that's the maximum size you can build your lot. You can build them smaller if you want. When you do a cluster development, and again, this is not
So
changing.
it could be 14 houses on 14 acres each, not clustered quite that.
No, no.
Okay.
It can be, the lot can be up to 3.5, or up to 4 acres. They just modeled 3.3 acres for
You
the
just
sake
said
of.
14, so I was
No,
confused.
no, 14 homes.
Yep.
They have to be on 4-acre or smaller parcels. So they can make the parcel smaller if they want. Can't go, if you're gonna do a cluster, it can't go bigger than 4 acres. Yeah, that's the performance standard. And that's not changing either. And then when it's the rural economy lots, they have to be a minimum of 10 acres, I believe. It's 25, yeah, so you have to be a minimum of 25 acres, but then you're doing a rural commercial use, so, you know, like if it's a processing facility or something like that. Okay, any other questions? Ramsey?
Having lived here for 9 years, what I absolutely can't ever disregard is the beauty, the open space, the vegetation, the wildlife, etc. And perhaps a lot of you have already been made very aware of the impact that the recent start of construction has had on both the wildlife in the area and also the enormous, spectacular, some call them witness trees that were there that were deemed in the way and taken down. And I thought you said at the meeting before last that there was going to be an environmental impact study, which to me includes much more than the fiscal impact with respect to the natural environment. And I'm really concerned that neither of these projects looks to be taking into great account anything to do with the existing woods, the existing wildlife, etc. And I know for a fact the impact that having increased vineyards has on those things, and not to mention the water draw that vineyards can create.
Sure, absolutely. It is, and Will, correct me if I'm wrong, if an applicant wants to move forward and they start on the process of doing a development, they're gonna have to do the environmental impact analysis, is that correct?
Definitely if they proceed
Yeah.
in Loudoun County.
Yeah. So, yeah, that would be, an environmental impact analysis is not something that a town or a municipality typically does. An applicant would do that if they want to start the process.
Would there be a public input normally to a state stage like that?
I don't think so, is there? I mean, it's a report they have to provide. I mean, Will, tell us how that process
Yeah,
works.
well, so, if either of these properties were to subdivide within Loudoun County because of their proximity to the town, they actually have to file an application through the town. We're obligated to act on it based on Loudoun's zoning, but as part of that process, we do hold a public hearing, so there is opportunity for public input. Very similar, if anybody remembers when Banbury Cross was being reviewed, that's solely in Loudoun County, but it was processed through the town, and the town planning commission had a public hearing. So there would be that public hearing.
Yeah, because they're within the 1 mile zone?
Yes.
With the 1 mile impact zone, they would have to come to if they were doing something in Loudoun County, they would have to come to the town planning commission and have a hearing. But if they're doing something in Loudoun County, they also have to go to the Loudoun County process, so you can speak to the Loudoun County Planning Commission or board as well.
Well,
They have to do both.
actually, no.
Or is it administrative?
It's solely administrative.
Okay. Okay, so to be 100% accurate, they do have to have a public hearing here, but at the county level, it's completely administrative. So there is no public hearing. They file the application, they file the analysis, the county staff reviews it and either approves it, sends it back, or whatever.
I'd just like to add that Middleburg It's why it stands out, it's why it draws people, and why we are all living here by choice. So what is decided at the county seat about the environmental impact, or in fact, about a lot of the issues we've talked about tonight, feels impersonal and unvested in anything that this town currently, and this immediate area currently offers.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an unfair comment. You know, unfortunately, the county is the county, and it's 3,000 or 4,000 employees, and I mean, you know, Loudoun County's now 430,000 people, right? They have 100,000 school students, so you know they've got to manage the process as well. So, Robin, yeah, Robin's with Tony Buckingham's
I would just like
office.
to introduce myself. I'm Robin Bartok, and I represent Supervisor Tony Buckington. I have been to all these meetings, and so you do have a representative from the county that is here, who is your district supervisor, and he's listening. Okay?
Well, thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
Carter.
Seeing that this piece of property is in Loudoun County in zone A1, it's going to be annexed, or is it going to be a BLM, which is my first question is.
BLA.
Why are you doing a BLM when it's really an annexation? Because those are the words you're using. Why is it not annexation versus BLM, question one? And question two, since it's in the county, it's going to go through a rezoning process, which is going to extract proffers. And I want to know what proffers this county expects to get to offset the impacts of this 40% impact to the community.
So legally and technically, this is a BLA, which is a boundary line adjustment. It is where the property owner and, well, if we get a request, the process would be what is known as a boundary line adjustment. It is technically not an annexation. The reason we set them together was because when you say boundary line adjustment, most folks don't know what that means because they're not land planning and zoning experts. But when you say, oh, we're going to annex land in, you know exactly what that means. From a legal perspective, a boundary line adjustment is when the two municipalities involved, here would be the county and the town, and the property owner are all in favor of doing it. That's basically what it means. An annexation is when one of those three parties is not in favor of it, and it's taken to a judge in a court proceeding. So I don't think the town would be at all interested in doing anything if it was going to end up in a legal annexation, which is basically the line is moved by an order of the court as opposed to a mutual agreement of all the parties. That's the significant difference between a BLA and an annexation. If you look in the paper right now, Leesburg has voted to annex Compass Creek because they in the county don't agree that it should be moved. So that's, they're working that out. Hang on one second and answer Carter's second question. I've already forgotten it, Carter. What was your second question? Oh, proffers, right. Yeah, that's absolutely something on the table, right? But we need to see what the actual application would look like, what the community feels are the impacts, and what we want to achieve to understand what those proffers should or shouldn't be. If we did this, the rezoning is in the town, not outside the town. So that's not a Loudoun County process, that's a Town of Middleburg process. So whenever a piece of property comes into town, and it's happened a number of times over the last 20, 30 years, it is automatically rezoned to agricultural conservancy. And AC in the town, you can't build on it. So the applicant would then file for a rezoning, and that's when the town has the ability to work those types of concessions out for impact or design standards or whatever you're talking. And there would also be a boundary line adjustment agreement which outlines those things as well. The town went through this process excruciatingly in detail with Salamander. back in '04, '05, and '06. So there was a boundary line adjustment agreement, and then there was a rezoning. So, yeah, Patty.
Well, to that end, one of the proffers of Salamander was the proffer to build affordable housing, workforce housing in the MUD area. And I believe I asked at a town council meeting some time ago, because I couldn't remember how Salamander escaped that promise to the town. And I went back and looked at it again, and I'd still like the answer to the question, please, is how did Salamander get off the hook for workforce housing for its own employees? And if we could have that answer maybe at the next public meeting, because as part of that proffer, I read that if there was any gyration, for lack of a better word, within the MUD area, which there is, the town is given the acre for the town hall, and that is touching that proffer, and that proffer should have been performed, the whole of the proffer should have been performed.
So to answer, yeah.
I hope you'll give me an answer.
Yeah, no, I can give the answer right now. The answer is,
Now the workforce housing is somebody else's problem, including people asking Mr. Prince to build affordable housing, for which there's no basis for that at all. He can do all
so Patty, let me answer your
the
question.
housing.
Let me answer your question. Your question was, why wasn't Salamander forced to build the workforce housing? that
Not
would-
forced, they promised it.
I got it, I got it.
And we
What,
said
in those proffers, what it said, and what it says today is, you can build, you are pre-authorized to build, and Dan, I'm gonna get this wrong, is it 60,000 or 30,000 commercial? 30,000 square feet of commercial space with 60 apartment units above it. They were not required to build it, they were authorized to build it. So there's nothing the town can force them to do. If we could roll the tape back 15, 18 years ago, would the town have looked at that differently? Possibly. But what their obligation, what their legal obligation was, is if they want to build something there, that's what they were authorized to build, but they were never required to build it. And that is what the proffer says. So that's why. Now, if they want to go do something different with that land, they got to come back to the town and make a big request, and we have the unilateral right to say no. But that's the reason why. Yeah.
And as far as Ms. Thomas is right, there is a portion of land that's being developed in what was the MUV area as part of the town hall project. There was actually a proffer amendment submitted and approved that would net out that space so that we could proceed with our project. So that small amount that was in the MUV was then rezoned. So that's why that did not create a trigger.
Right. So what Will's point was, the other proffer that we got from Salamander at the time was a footprint for a new town hall in their mixed-use village. So 15 years ago, the council wanted to have a new town hall that was going to be in the middle of the mixed-use village. Why none of the other proffers were triggered was because we amended the existing proffer for that footprint to simply put the land next to the land that we already had to build a new town hall. But it did not affect any of the other existing proffers. And it was the same size. Any other questions on the above? Yes, ma'am.
On the process question, the first pie chart you showed had in-town, out-of-town, and overall. Will the in-town votes be weighed any heavier than the others? And if not, why break it that way?
You know, it's a great question. I think first and foremost, we have our fiduciary responsibility to our in-town residents, and we have a moral obligation to everybody who lives outside of town. So I think each council member, brings their experience and commitment to the town first and foremost, but also a broader commitment to the community. So I'm not going to presuppose how anybody else here weighs it one way or the other. I know for me, yes, the input from folks who live in town who will be affected and impacted the most, generally speaking, that carries more weight. you know, but it's one of those things of, you look at it and you make the best assessment you can at the time.
Can you show that slide again? Because it seemed like the sample slides for the in-town, it seemed like a lot of people didn't really respond yet to the survey monkey. So 192.
And those were by.
So do you feel, I don't know, it just seems like not enough town residents really put their input in when they should be.
You know, that's the trouble with survey inputs, right? I mean, you talk to any survey expert, you get 10%, that's, you know, you send out 10,000 people, if you get 10%, that's a good showing.
Right.
You know, people, I mean, look, we sent a paper flyer and vote, you know, give us your comment to every single household. So, you know, we posted it on Facebook, you know, people are busy. I mean, I'm not trying to make excuses for it, but, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So just, so if, both, people submitting plans look at the input and change and, you know, maybe hopefully reduce, but still put in a thoughtful plan, will it come before the citizens again, or
Oh,
that just
absolutely.
goes straight to
Absolutely.
you guys?
Absolutely. There will be public hearings, and we will get the feedback from the community. You know, but we wanted a starting point, and what we really wanted was as much input for the property owners and their representatives to make the best overall concepts that they feel, you know, meets the goals that they're looking for, meets the goals the town's looking for, and here's the feedback from the community. And you can't have that if you submit the application first and then try to real-time make the sausage. You know, we felt this was much more of an efficient way to do it, but also the way in which updates and changes could be the most readily made by the owners if they choose to. So, I tell you what, we've been here for, it's only been an hour, so I'll take a 2-minute pause if any, I think we're all willing to wait, you know, and answer any questions. If anybody wants to hang back, we'll you know, give 2 minutes if anybody wants to go ahead and leave, or, yeah, Tom.
Before we leave or take a pause, these individuals are in public service, and I really want to thank and express my appreciation for what they do for Middleburg. These are not high salary positions. And the thought and the transparency and the listening is inspiring. There aren't a lot of American communities like this. And Bridge, I've known you for 41 years. Very proud of you. What you're doing for this town. I'm very appreciative. I lived here for 41 years. Windy Hill, when I moved here, was a disgrace.
Yes.
And there was a leader in the community, Renee Llewellyn, who said this should not stand in Middleburg, and she did something about it. And so, full transparency, I'm part of the Windy Hill board. I don't think anyone could question Maggie Bryant or family's environmental credentials. The site that this will be placed on will be thoughtful. Well done. We appreciate, from as a board member, the input that we've gotten. Probably some things that will be adjusted. But again, I want to express my appreciation to the public service that you all provide to this town. Why it's a great place to live. Always.
Definitely not for the money. Okay, so again, all this will be available on the town website. We're happy to hang back if anybody has any more questions. Yeah, you know, thanks everybody for all your input, your feedback, and you know, have a great Wednesday night. First beer's on me. Wait a minute. Never mind.